Good morning to you. It's Daybreak, iFiber One News Radio. I'm Jeff Slakey, Vicky Steele. Morning, Vicky.
Good morning, Jeff.
Well, we have two more great guests in studio right now to continue on some wonderful conversations here this morning.
I feel very protected right now.
I would say so. Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, as well as the Undersheriff Jim Barrett here on the air. Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Good morning to you.
We're moving into 2018, and one of the first portions of the conversation that we have, well, actually, let's talk about this late last night. Sheriff's deputy at Pierce County was shot, and they're still, I believe, we'll check the news here, but looking for one of the suspects. We saw some of the procession going on this morning. Talk to me a little bit about how the departments elsewhere around the state respond to these types of things, how you guys as the Mason County Sheriff's Office will respond if needed for Pierce County, things like that.
Notifications come out on things like that really quickly. Our thoughts go out to Sheriff Paul Pastor in the Pierce County Sheriff's Office. As you probably heard this morning, that individual was formerly worked down the Grays Harbor area. And there are a number of law enforcement officers the Undersheriff and I have worked with over the years. A number of them grew up here in town that are working up there, and when you get that, you until you get the name of the person, everything, your mind starts to wonder who that is. And I just wanted our condolences to Sheriff Pastor and his folks up there. It's a tough morning. You ask about what happens immediately. Other agencies come in and start to backfill, and you have to call in other shifts, and it's quite some time before these things settle out. There's an organization, just I'll mention them because they do such a great job in the state of Washington. They're called Behind the Badge. And they're an organization that most of the members of that have lost somebody in the line of duty. And they've put together a program where they come in and assist agencies in all the different things that need to be done behind the scenes. And so hence the name Behind the Badge, so supporting law enforcement in the state of Washington.
You mentioned some of the backfill and help that you and other departments are able to give if possible, and that's one of the things that we were going to kind of talk about with you guys and a lot of other county entities here over the next couple of weeks with the budget 2018 out. We just want to and make sure the citizens of Mason County are aware of potential changes in service levels and what they can expect. We were talking about office hours at the auditor's office and things like that. Have you guys had a chance to sift out the budget and have an idea of what some of the limitations could be here moving forward for 2018?
Some of it, and it's an ever-changing process and will be for quite some time. Right now, we're in our initial stages of looking at how we're going to have to cut back on hours. You talk about assisting other agencies. I think the thing that hits my mind the most, because before I came here, I worked for Thurston County, the number of times that we've had to call on other agencies for assistance because we needed it. And over the last few years is some of the first times that we can remember being able to assist other agencies when they need it. And it looks like with the number of cutbacks we've had, that kind of thing's not going to be as reciprocal, and that's really too bad. I bring up a couple things. Our boating program a couple of years ago was recognized as the best boating program in the state. And now the only thing that we're going to be using it for is immediate emergency calls on the water. There's not going to be any more patrol. That's been a huge thing ever since I've lived here. Of all the lakes that we have and all the people that call in and just want patrol, with the cutbacks, we took $1.5 million in cutbacks. And with those cutbacks, we're not going to have people out there just patrolling the lake to fly the colors anymore. Those days are over. And we tried to explain those things, and apparently those weren't considered a priority at the county level. So boating will be for emergent situation zoning. Jim, did you want to add anything on that?
Well, I think, we will look at the heavy use weekends where we're considering the funding from the state. That boating program is predominantly funded from the state, but those dollars run out very quickly at the level we run, and we backfill it with patrol. Mm-hmm. So, as the sheriff said, it'll be more of a response, and on the real heavy weekends, we'll try and get some extra patrols out like we would do with traffic policing, DUI enforcements, etc. The next major issue that's going to start, and unfortunately we had a tragic issue this weekend where 2 dogs were killed. Animal control has been reassigned to evidence because we were without an evidence officer. We have to move that detective back to detectives. A detective had to go back to patrol. So the ripple effect is started. Our animal control program will be not the proactive program it was in the past. It'll be more of a respond to criminal type matters, predominantly by the deputies themselves with some assistance from our former animal control officer who's now assigned to evidence. In the course of 6 months, we'll have lost over 16 positions. You break that out to 40 hours per week, that's roughly 2,560 hours of work per month that is not being performed by those vacancies. That has to go somewhere or it has to be eliminated. And that's the challenge the command staff leadership in the organization is trying to figure out, how do we do this?
So let's take that as an example, an animal call. If somebody calls and says there is an animal out running about, or perhaps something happened where a dog attacked somebody, will the dispatcher determine the level of response, or will they say, sorry, that doesn't really fit the purview now? Or once the call is made, how is it going to be determined whether or not you can go out and take care of this?
I would say that the exact details are still being communicated with dispatch. They're being communicated with the rest of the organizations, our volunteer contingent in the North Precinct. But the general message right now is, if it's not a criminal type of animal cruelty, a dangerous dog, aggressive dog, deputies won't be responding. So your basic animals at large and the things that our animal control did before, unless it's an immediate public safety issue, cows on the roadway, horses on the roadway, those kind of things, we're just not going to be able to send, our animal control that used to handle those before. Deputies will pick up those calls, and if it's beyond their expert level, because now we have to train an entire cadre of deputies on the more nuanced expertise issues of animal control, she'll be called out occasionally to handle the more detailed ones, but that transition will take place over a multi-month period.
One other set of training that we've talked about is how officers interact with folks who may have mental health issues. And we had a service on Saturday for a longtime, well-known Shelton resident. I know you were there, Casey, kind of talking a little bit about this. You want to talk a little bit more about that on the air with me this morning?
Sure, Jeff. I made a comment and somebody criticized me afterwards, and I'll stand by what I said. I think the state of Washington and the county itself, as far as mental health, has let a lot of people down. We have not done a good job in this state of dealing with people with mental health issues for a long time. Now, I'm not saying that the incident the other day would have particularly prevented somebody from maybe getting hit like that occurred, but that particular individual, probably most all of us, I know when the city officer said for 3 years they'd been dealing with it. Well, for many of us that have lived here for over 30, I remember that individual when they were an outstanding athlete in high school, watching them and watched what happened over the years. My comment was on that is that, I think it's let down. And somebody says, well, you couldn't have prevented that because a person wanted to be that way. I don't know that anybody wants to have those kind of things occur in their life. But my comment was, long before it got to this certain point, there should have been a lot more done. We've all in the law enforcement community dealt with that individual numerous times. And I think the important point behind what I said the other day was that when that occurrence happened, that rolled through the law enforcement community very, very quickly. And the comments that were made were, we're deeply sorry that happened to that individual. Here are the very people that have probably had the most challenging circumstances in dealing with them, were the most concerned immediately in our community, saying, sorry that our system had let a person down. And the law enforcement people felt awful about that, and for all the parties that were involved. There needs to be a lot more done. We just recently were battling some issues. I can let the Undersheriff explain it, on funding that we've asked for our office, and how some wires got crossed. And we tried to make some recommendations, and again, we got shorted in the area of working with people with mental health.
I'll tell you that will be an ongoing topic, and it's peaking in intensity and discussions. We've had the discussions before about the jail population and the challenges that we face there between substance abuse and mental health issues, or a combination of the two. How do you deal with that incarcerated population, let alone those that are not in the system yet? in a state of mental crisis, commit a crime. Is jail the best place? Are there other opportunities? And the system is well behind the expectations of the public and the expectations of politicians. Funding's not catching up with those things, training. So there is a long-standing issue that's going to take multiple years to correct. And those are, again, the ongoing challenges, and who in the department now goes out and makes those liaisons, makes those contacts, because we will be doing a reorganization within this department as a result of these cuts. And so job allocations, assignments, who does what is all being shifted around. And to that end, the mental health, it's not going to change. There's a lot of great people with passion who want to do something about it and address it the right way. I think the sheriff is going to have somebody come in who's working on their masters and is going to provide some assistance to our people. We're setting up 40-hour blocks of training here in the spring for all of our staff. So we're moving aggressively, but there's funding challenges and staffing challenges. You send people to 40 hours of training, you got to backfill their shifts.
Sure.
So those are some of the challenges in the mental health arena that we're working on. One of the other areas that we haven't fully developed it, but alarm calls. More likely than not, we're not going to be responding to your routine alarm calls anymore unless there's some type of suspect information or it's a panic or distress alarm. We're not going to be sending deputies at this point. We just don't have that kind of staff to do those things anymore. And is it a choice we wanted to have? No. Have we fought it as long as we could possibly fight it? Yes, but we are where we're at, and so alarms are another issue of ongoing concern that we're addressing right now too.
We were advised by some of our county officials making these decisions quite a while back during a meeting that any overtime use would result in deputies being cut. As you know, we had quite an incident on the Highway 3, the Emery case. And it's sad when you have to go and ask if you can work for victims. Are you just going to cut us? Because it's going to be overtime. We have no choice in those matters. We don't get to tell people, no, we're not coming. On some of these other things, we're going to have to delay those responses on boating issues, on animal control issues. Worth noting that when the undersheriff and I first came here, the animal control issue got so difficult that the county commission at that time realized that the calls for service, we needed to have 2 animal control officers. And we did, and we're keeping them busy at the time. Then they cut us back to 1, and now we're down to none. And the challenges are going to come forward. So I asked the public, we've had to make some decisions on things. Unfortunately, those decisions were predicated on the cuts that were given to us, the circumstances in the jail where we've had to limit the amount of people that we can put in the jail, that we can't put others in. Those weren't things that we wanted. Those were bestowed upon us to say, this is how much money you get, so this is what you have to work with. So we have to make those cuts. It's not anything we wanted to do. You brought up the mental health issue and some other things. I want to talk about some neat things that we are doing. As you know, last year we became involved in Special Olympics and assisting people in Special Olympics. We'll be doing that again this year. During the time when we had went and asked for training dollars to assist us with training on all our officers in the area of mental health, that did not materialize. And so, fortunately, the academy commander at the Criminal Justice Training Commissioner, Sheriff Surar, retired Sheriff Surar, made a deal with me that rather than us having to spend our time, energy, and effort and overtime sending people to Seattle to stay overnight for training classes, that she would allow us, she would gratefully give us the opportunity to send the trainers down here, and thankful that the Squaxin Island tribe has always allowed us to use that room out there. Otherwise, we couldn't have set something like this up. We did an 8-hour training that's required for the state of Washington for all law enforcement officers. This month, I have a friend of mine that through Special Olympics I met. He's providing a training class called An Officer's Response to Persons with Special Needs, and he'll be coming down from Pierce County to provide that. Again, we're doing all these things without dollars, but we're trying to make it happen. He'll be down this month. The following month, Sheriff Rahr, Director Rahr, has agreed again to send the training staff down to Mason County. We'll be providing an 8-hour training session, and it goes out regionally. So all the folks in our region, last time we had 88 people there, and the majority of them were not from Mason County because we couldn't afford the backfill to to take people off shifts. So we're having to do it again. I feel like we're training the region in that respect, but at least the training's going out there. Then the following month, we have a group coming up, a number of people coming up out of California, and we're going to be discussing how to work with child sexual assault victims and other areas during interviews where we can use canine assistance in those. I spoke with the prosecutor in Thurston County this weekend about it. We're looking at putting having a dog here in Mason County for those kind of things to assist in those victims. So we're working on that for the year. It's going to be very challenging going into the next year. After we're finished here today, and we'll probably talk about it in another couple of weeks, there'll be some other announcements made that have not been fun. And you'll hear about them probably sometime after today. But there's a lot of challenges facing us in Mason County. But what I'll tell you is that our folks, they don't give up. Regardless of what's been bestowed upon us and tell us what we can't do, our people don't get up and give up. And they're still going to continue to do those things that are important in the community that I view important as well. It's not just the badge and what you think it is. It's all those other things that we do in the community to assist people, and we're going to continue.
Mason County Sheriff Casey Salisbury, Under Sheriff Jim Barrett, thanks for coming on. Tough morning here. We'll continue to have these conversations throughout the year. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.